Live. It is live. 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome to Redacted. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natali Morris. Welcome back. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you guys for allowing us the time off with the family. Hope you guys had an amazing Christmas holiday season and a new year and celebrated in earnest, because we are back with tons of news to get to today. And I'm a little disappointed in the conservative media parroting a lot of the CIA and FBI talking points about what's been happening in New Orleans and what happened in Las Vegas with the bomber there at Trump Tower. So we're going to talk about big updates on that today on the show, among other things.
That's right. We're going to talk about, let's see, a new pandemic. Is there something we need to panic about? Justin Trudeau resigning, if that was on your Christmas wish list. Santa brought that. Also, it's January 6th. So, in fact, we had the election results certified, but we're going to revisit January 6th 4 years ago because we're not done. We have a special guest today.
Yeah, Jacob Chansley is going to be joining us. Liberals, of course, called him the QAnon shaman. He's going to be here. It's 4 years, of course, since he walked peacefully into the Capitol building. The members of the members of the Capitol Hill Police escorting him into the Senate chambers, and then he prayed along with them. A lot has changed in these 4 years. A lot of things, of course, we've learned about January 6th since then. Of course, the FBI lied directly to the Americans' faces about what happened that day. The FBI informants that were there in the crowd that day inciting violence. So a lot to unpack here on the show today. So welcome back. Good to see all of you guys. It is 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. in the Rocky Mountains. Let us know where you're joining us from around the world. And welcome back to the team. Welcome back, Philip. I think David's internet is still down and everything, but Philip's here. Good to see you.
Without internet. I'm here. Sorry about that opener. I forgot to change things back from 2 weeks ago. So
2 weeks ago, I know. And Grim, our thoughts are with Grim, who's our graphic designer here, who does all the great graphics here. He got hit in Indiana with the massive snowstorm. I know still hundreds of thousands of people without power because of this massive snowstorm. But Grim is here. His power is back on, so he is.
So we have running. Graphics will be running. The show must go on. So if you're hit with this this storm, let us know if you're being hit with that as well. So, all right, let's do it. Before we get into our news of the day, we want to remind you that Redacted is brought to you by Shopify, and this is a great way. Hey, was your New Year's resolution to actually start your own business, control your own destiny by starting an online business? Well, Shopify is the place to go for that. If you go to shopify.com/redacted, you can sign up for a 1-month trial period, and you can launch whatever it is you have to offer the world. Do it on Shopify. They have everything you need to grow your own business, from that idea stage to that first sales stage to you've just made $1 million. You can quit your day job stage. We want that for you if you want that for yourself. And in fact, I should tell you that the Redacted store runs on Shopify. If you go to redactedstore.com, we have ideas all the time that you can buy products to signal to the world that you are not a conspiracy theorist. You're a conspiracy knower. You support Redacted. We run that on Shopify as well. So check it out for yourself at shopify.com/redacted.
And we got a viewer here up in Alaska, Amanda. Sorry, she just scrolled by here. Let's see, where was that?
Ecuador, Bolivia, welcome.
Yeah, sorry, I missed your name, by the way. I just saw it and I clicked on it and then I didn't save it. Up in Alaska. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people, of course, up in Alaska right now really pissed off about President Biden's outgoing drilling plans. I mean, imagine this. You're on your way out of office. You've been voted out. Mm-hmm. You arguably one of the worst presidents in American history. There's a mandate in the United States for change. And then on your way out of office, you decide you're going to pass a banning of U.S. drilling across national lands all across the United States, up and down the East Coast, out through Alaska, 650 different locations, so we can't drill for oil in the United States on your way out of office.
And how solid is that? Because President Trump has already said he will immediately overturn this because drill, baby, drill was one of his campaign promises. The people there have been protesting to get those drilling contracts to bring prosperity to their towns for years, and President Biden just gives them a big middle finger, something we've showed you the letters of people in those districts from native populations, and they want this. Clearly, we're not listening to them. We're listening to the media.
Mr. Just Francis is a bit disappointed. Longtime listener and supporter and doesn't get any attention. Mr. Just Francis.
There you are. We see you.
We see you. We see all of you guys. It's just the chat flies by. That's why we had to put it on slow-mo here, because I know a lot of people say, I want it to go fast. David, maybe, or I don't know if anyone can do it on the back end. Maybe Grim can do it. turn off slow mode on our chat just to see how quickly it goes? Well, let's leave it off for today's show. How about that? We'll turn off slow mode on the YouTube chat. Rumble, I think, still is a little bit slow. And just watch it fly by. You won't be able to read a damn comment. So anyway, all right, let's get into the news, shall we? Well, as we said back in December, right here on this show, Justin Trudeau would resign. Well, today, Canadians got their Christmas wish. And in a way, it's like a little bit of a mixed bag. Yes, there is a resignation, but just listen to the way in which Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, in fact, did resign or announce he's going to resign in March if they can't find another leader. Listen.
Over the holidays, I've also had a chance to reflect and have had long talks with my family about our future. Throughout the course of my career, any success I have personally achieved has been because of their support and with their encouragement. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
Ellie Stevens in our chat says Trudeau must face charges. Yeah. Wouldn't that be amazing if so he prorogued the government, which was of course a new word to a lot of us in the United States. Prorogued the government, basically,
it's a big fat pause button.
Yeah, it suspends Parliament. He basically puts them on sabbatical until March, and now it's sort of a position right now where they're basically in many ways without a government. Right as President Trump is coming into office, where they'll have cross-border international, massive decisions to make across the border of the United States into Canada, and he's not going to have a parliament.
No one to do business with.
Knock, knock. Oh, there's no one around. Your parliament is prorogued, and so he will still remain there until March.
I know that hasn't happened very many times, but wasn't one of them like? I mean, it was quite a while. It was a previous prime minister where there was like some scandal he was embroiled in, and then he just like sent Parliament away. Like they just kind of use it as like a defensive political maneuver.
Which is exactly well timed, because on Wednesday he was facing another emergency meeting of Parliament where they were going to again face a no confidence vote and call for his resignation. So he doesn't have to sit through that anymore because he's taken the rug out from under that idea.
And David Creighton's going to join us here in a few minutes to go more deeply into this. He's been following very closely, so we'll have David on in just a few minutes here. But look at the Canadian dollar on this news. This is the Canadian dollar skyrocketing just a short time ago on the news that Trudeau is leaving. So yeah, there's certainly an appetite for it. Donald Trump also getting in on this, posted this on Truth Social. Many people in Canada love being the 51st state. The United States can no longer suffer the massive trade deficits and subsidies that Canada needs to stay afloat. Justin Trudeau knew this and resigned. If Canada merged with the United States, there would be no tariffs, taxes would go way down, and they would be totally secure from the threat of the Russian and Chinese ships that are constantly surrounding them. Together, what a great nation it would be. Of course, they won't do that. Instead, they'd rather just have us send them $100 billion.
Yeah.
Or
I don't like this. I don't like the idea that he's talking about expansion of
he's joking.
United
He's trolling.
States.
He's been trolling this. This
right.
is totally
it sort of feeds the liberals' talking point that he wants ever expanding power.
Right.
So I don't like this. I also wish that he would take it seriously and say, let's make a real trading bloc. How about we do that in North America? How about we actually discuss a real trading bloc that works for all of North America?
Yeah, throw NAFTA out with the Bill Clinton NAFTA program out, and actually put something in place that works for North America rather than we lose $100 billion a year to Canada. Well, Pierre Poilievre, who is the conservative leader, and there is now a 92% probability on the polling, the polling Vegas odds that Pierre Poilievre will become the next Prime Minister of Canada. Here he spoke just a few minutes ago. Listen.
Good day. Canadians desperate to turn the page on this dark chapter in our history might be relieved today that Justin Trudeau is finally leaving. But what has really changed? Every Liberal MP in power today and every potential Liberal leadership contender fighting for the top job helped Justin Trudeau break the country over the last 9 years. All Liberal politicians actively worked to pass into law the job-killing inflationary carbon tax, a tax that Carbon Tax Carney endorsed in his book. All supported a law quadrupling the tax over the next 5 years. All voted for or actively supported Trudeau's out-of-control spending, debt, and immigration. All passed.
So his point here is that, so in 3 months, the Liberal Party is going to put up another leader. All of these people are corrupt. All of these people enabled Trudeau. So you're going to find somebody who is not a part of that? Right. It was, you know, he's saying there's a massive machine here of corruption who all enabled Trudeau. So good luck in March that you're suddenly going to find some sort of a Liberal leader that can emerge.
Right. This. Where's your Thomas Massey in this pile? It's a needle in a haystack because it's been a supported wall of authoritarianism under Justin Trudeau. So, nobody, get drunk on this celebration because it's clearly not over for this authoritarian regime.
Sheridan Forbes in our chat says, Canada is finished, sadly. Brother homes will never be affordable again. The great Canadian peso is coming, pounding out potatoes 99 cents. Basically saying, it's so unaffordable in Canada right now, and Trudeau has run that country into the ground. It's going to take years for them to dig out of this mess. But hey, some good signs today.
Right. Well, some good signs for the end of the Obama era as Kamala Harris became the first woman to certify her own loss in a presidential election. You may recall that Al Gore had to do this when he lost the presidency to George Bush Jr. while he was still vice president, because that is the role of the current vice president. Sometimes we forget that Kamala Harris is still the vice president, but she is.
And the president of the Senate, by the way.
Yes, and that is her role as the president of the Senate. So here she was earlier today, because it's January 6th. She had to open the joint session of Congress to certify that the Trump-Vance ticket did win the election in 2024. Watch.
Mr. Speaker and members of Congress, pursuant to the Constitution and laws of the United States, the Senate and House of Representatives are meeting in joint session to verify the certificates and count the votes of the electors of the several states for President and Vice President of the United States.
We watched this with our children today because the school district extended the holiday to stick it to us, I guess. It's a little extra torture.
They're off for 2
parents.
Weeks. We don't need this one extra day.
We do not.
But anyway, we gave them a civics
children
lesson.
did get to watch this, and the girls were like, oh, I feel so bad for her. Let me know how you feel. I do feel empathy. That had to be a hard thing for her to do, and after a really long and grueling presidential race. But that's the way it went. This is being called by the New York Post the end of the Obama era, and I really do appreciate this take because Democrats are feeling a deep sense of betrayal. I don't know if it's actually betrayal or people like me who were formerly liberals and identify as Democrats feel like, oh, the party is actually awful and murderous. But okay, that's another way to put it, is that they're betrayed. What do they mean, though, by the end of the Obama era? I like the way this is put. It's this illusion, this manifest destiny of the left adopted during the second Obama term that promises an ever-diversifying electorate would inexorably vote Democrat and thus be patronized with cartoonish appeals to identity and big government. Yes to all of that, right? Isn't that what we're celebrating? Not necessarily the rise of Trump, but the death of this, which was utterly 1984-ish. We lived through it. They talked about DEI rules across federal agency, this rise of neo-racism where white people had to be punished for something they never did. Open borders that would buy Hispanic votes, the Green New Deal that would buy these environmentalists without actually giving them data on whether or not this would work or tank the economy, validating the rhetoric of pro-Hamas supporters. Then they talk about this second pillar of Obama era, which was the new industry of shadow government, which was NGOs. We've talked about this ad nauseum for the last 4 years. Consultants, activist groups, foundations such as the human rights groups getting their politics into law. It's been horrible. The third era of the Obama administration, he talks about here, the third pillar, massive cancel culture with accompanying online authoritarianism. Yes, that has happened. Right. So that is actually what I was celebrating when these January 6 votes were certified today. Less the rise of Trump, but the end of this absolute nightmare. I also blame Democrats for many deaths of innocent people abroad. Well, and in the United States, not just abroad, nationally as well.
Well, and Obama, of course, has been running the show from behind the scenes. And so this really, now they're out of power. They're out of power in the White House. They're out of power in the House, the Senate, in the Supreme Court. So now you're going to see them dissolving into these NGOs and these non-governmental organizations, these Obama-ites.
Will they have the same power that they had under Democratic terms? This is something that those allied with the Trump administration have to watch for carefully. So is this really the end of that? Because that's an ugly monster. Could it morph into a different way that the Trump administration doesn't see? Who amongst us is going to hold their breath for this to actually be dead? Don't do that. You could die. Don't hold your breath for anything. Just watch for it. But okay, we're watching as at least this administration ends. So here, with that in mind, watch the moment that Harris certifies the second incoming Trump administration and the end of the Obama era.
The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris.
She tried to move on pretty quick. Well, I guess we'll allow them to stand and clap. She's like, and Kamala D. Harris, let me give you those numbers. And our chat room is saying they have zero empathy for her, by the way. Zero empathy.
Nobody?
Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes. The whole number of electors appointed to vote for Vice President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for Vice President of the United States are as follows. J.D. Vance,
so there you go.
The state of Ohio.
There was the...
I think they should have both stood for both. You ran a race. You should show mutual respect. Both sides of the aisle should applaud each candidate.
That's never going to happen.
I can say that out loud on this show. It's my show.
You can say it, but it's never going to happen. Just like at the State of the Union address, the other side will never.
We make our kids after a game walk up to the opponents and say, "Good game,
good game."
You should do that. We should do that in politics.
But this was for the cameras,
Okay. Yeah.
Well, the thing you have to remember,
we need it.
It is a uniparty, and they're in alignment. They're in alignment on so many issues, of course, and they are in major alignment right now on our next story, which is the corrupt House Republican Mike Turner is warning America that ISIS terrorists have infiltrated the United States and are plotting attacks on Americans right now. Oh my God! Really? We need to go to war with Iran right now because clearly Iran's behind all of it. So we need to go to war right now. This is exactly what the Uniparty wants. So they are behind, without the cameras, Republicans and Democrats, the neocons, all shaking hands, all excited about trying to push us into this war right now with this narrative about ISIS and Al-Qaeda terrorists. Of course, totally forgetting the fact that we created ISIS, that we fund them. We use them for regime change operations. This is where I've been really disappointed in a lot of the conservative media over the past 72 hours, parroting all of these FBI and CIA talking points. Wait a minute. We slam the FBI and the CIA on a regular basis as murderous organizations and corrupt organizations, right, on this show. They don't have the American interest at heart at all. They target Americans. And yet then the FBI and the CIA come out with information and talking points about ISIS, and the conservative media runs and say, oh, well, the FBI says. What? What the hell happened to you people? Wake up. So Mike Turner was on CBS's Face the Nation on Sunday when he stated that the FBI and other intelligence agencies know for certain that ISIS and other terrorist groups are operating on U.S. soil. Listen to Turner.
Chair Turner, shortly after that, you said on this program, we have terrorists that are actively working inside the United States that are a threat to Americans. Do you know if there are active terror cells in the United States right now?
Well, I think the issue of cells, and you and I were talking about that at the beginning of the show, are there individuals that are affiliated with ISIS and terrorist groups and organizations that have crossed the border and they're inside the United States? Director Wray, FBI director, has said so. We certainly have intelligence that says so. I agree with his assessment. Jim has also seen it. He's testified before our committee publicly of that fact. Those individuals are working in conjunction with ISIS with the intention of harming Americans. The director has said it directly.
They are known to U.S. intelligence and law enforcement.
And we are working diligently to try to take them down, to prevent them from doing so. And that's why the director is publicly saying such. And that's what the new administration is going to be handed. The fact that these individuals are here, that we need to locate them, we need to remove them, we need to bring them to justice and prevent them from doing harm to Americans.
Okay, so I'm sorry. The same people that you funded and organized to carry out regime change operations in Syria, Libya, and any other place that you want are now in the United States because you let them come into the United States openly, walk right across the U.S. southern border. So they're here. But now, suddenly, they're not on our payroll anymore. We know exactly where these people are. And now they want us all to be scared, use these false flags as an opportunity to go to war. Of course, Mike Turner, massively corrupt member of the U.S. House of Representatives, and of course associated deeply with the intelligence community. He's there praising Christopher Wray. The guy lied to you. He lied to all of us in front of Congress about January 6th. He's lied to us repeatedly. So now we're trusting Christopher Wray? Really? This is what's happening? Remember when Tucker Carlson had David Grush on to talk about disclosure in the UFO program and found out, of course, that the stonewalling about this program came directly from Mike Rogers and Mike Turner. Watch Tucker's great response. Watch.
At what point will this become public?
So I'm glad you asked that. So I mentioned the Schumer amendments, the UAP Disclosure Act of 23. It's currently in conference. It's part of the fiscal year 24 National Defense Authorization Act, which is what funds the DoD and IC. But right now it's in a perilous position because, as I'm told by staffers on the Hill, the House Armed Services and Intelligence Committees are trying to block it, specifically Mike Rogers and Mike Turner. They believe it's duplicative. It's not going to assist Arrow in any way. However, having
Mike Rogers and Mike Turner,
the mics, and the thing is this provides
two of the dumbest people in Washington. So just pure tools of the national security state.
So it helps them give top cover. It helps them declassify.
Pure tools of the national intelligence state. Pure tools of they. So when you see pure tools of the national intelligence state on television, telling you and spinning a narrative, there's a reason that CBS News put these people on this weekend. There's a reason that all of these people have been trotted out on television, Fox News and others. All the legacy media is playing into this narrative, of course, because they are tools of the intelligence state. They get information directly from the intelligence state. That's how it works, the Mockingbird media. Don't fall for it. Tim Burchett doesn't seem to be falling for it, and he published this just today. He said, we have got to quit funding the Taliban under Donald Trump. $40 million a week goes to our enemies. It's a slap in the face to those who've served. Now, I could go deeper than that, Congressman Burchett. Would love to have a congressman on to talk more about that, but the rot is deep, and they are pushing this narrative on all of us right now. Just get ready for President Trump to come in, and we're going to be, having to face this war with Iran because that's exactly what the intelligence state does. And these tools of the intelligence community are being used as tools, exactly what they're meant for, right?
Yes.
All
right, pandemic.
Sorry, real quick, but are we as a nation ever going to figure out that this does not work, that arming groups to overthrow our enemies, eventually they come back to fight us? Are we just waiting until finally we get that one success story? I don't think we have any, do we?
No. I can't think of any. Have we ever armed a group that we
overthrow
and then we've bombed them? And no, there's never. Libya, Yemen, Syria, Afghanistan. I mean, the list is pretty endless at this point.
Vietnam.
Well, we didn't arm. Well, we did arm the South Vietnamese, but of course not the North Vietnamese. But
right.
No, I can't think of it. If anyone can, let us know.
Yeah. Okay, well, Pandemic Watch. You ready for this? We're tracking HMPV. We're going to tell you what we know about that in just a second. But first, the first bird flu death in the United States was just announced moments ago today in the state of Louisiana. This is a case we've been tracking for actually a long time. That's not that one.
I put it in late. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's no graphic for this because we just found out about it. But this was a man who had comorbidities, who was exposed to bird flu last year and has since succumbed. But the CDC says the current general public health risk remains low because, again, this was a patient who already had illnesses, and they confirmed his contraction of bird flu with a PCR test. That also is problematic. So we're all just going to put this on pause. We're not going to freak out collectively. We have to agree to this together. Yes, we're not freaking out. Okay, but let's turn to what we know about a new virus spreading in China, HMPV. It's actually not new. It's a new spread. It's human metapneumovirus. Although images of people in masks in China are trending, sparking new fears of lockdowns, mask requirements, vaccine requirements. You know the drill. You've lived through it. The Chinese government is actually saying this is a normal winter occurrence. Do you hear that? So, we have to ask the questions that we've been sort of, conditioned to ask. Do we believe China? Is that true? Is this a normal winter occurrence? We can believe nothing, but we're just watching, right? Okay, so here is the Chinese government's update from last Friday. Chinese spokesperson Mao Ning said that the HMPV virus appears to be less severe and spread on a smaller scale compared to previous years. She says that this is an ongoing winter occurrence, and she says, this is her quote, "It is safe to travel to China." Okay, well, the CDC in the United States concurs with this assessment. They say that their data does show that HMPV is the most active during winter and spring in temperate climates. And also it circulates with these other winter viruses such as RSV and influenza. But how are these cases confirmed? We have to ask that now. Well, given what we know about PCR tests for COVID and how they were 97% faulty, how can we trust the new case numbers for HMPV? Well, these tests are done with these two detections. See, you notice it says these tests are not usually ordered when somebody shows up sick. So do we think that they're going to start? They're done by blood, urine, and nose mucus. And again, they say they're not common. So how long until we see them surging prices for tests that may or may not be reliable? We don't know, but we've learned to ask. One thing that people have rightfully noticed is that this virus does affect children. Recall how people predicted that the next pandemic would have to affect children for us to take it seriously or buy it. This one does, according to the CDC, that it is, in fact, a concern among young children, older adults, and people with weakened immune system. So far in China, they've confirmed 14 children have contracted it, but they are not publicizing a high death rate or a high hospitalization rate. There is no vaccine or antiviral even to treat it now. So that's what we know collectively about HMPV. We're going to not panic until we know more, right? We're agreeing to that collective
Don't fall
agreement.
for it.
Okay.
Someone in the chat on Rumble says, should I kill all of my parakeets? Browntown Express says, should I kill all of my parakeets because of the bird flu? Or no, I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do that. Okay. All right, let's move over to New Jersey, where teachers no longer have to pass a basic literacy or math test to get a teaching certification to teach children literacy and math in the state of New Jersey. New Jersey considers that if you graduated college, you're good. You know the kind of person in college that graduates, but they didn't do the work. They just sort of slipped through the cracks and got the degree.
Yeah.
We all are collectively have that person in mind.
I think most of them end up in Washington, don't they?
Right.
Washington State.
Yeah, or they go to Ivy League schools.
Oh, Washington, he means the government.
Washington, D.C., where they go to, or they go to Ivy League schools where they don't even get a grade. Right. It's like pass, fail, and they just get pushed through because they have like some elite.
Yeah, right? Okay, so that's the person who could be your kid's math teacher, even advanced math from now on. This is from Act 1669 that went into effect on January 1st. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy signed it into office in the state budget. New Jersey residents didn't even get to vote on it. The bill says that anyone seeking a teaching certificate does not need to complete a Commissioner of Education approved test of basic reading, writing, and mathematics skills, including blah, 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 blah. So notice it doesn't say you don't have to have the certificate. You still have to go through the bureaucracy and pay your fee and get it. You just don't have to qualify for it. So what good is a certificate that you don't have to qualify for? It's just a way for the government to collect fees and expand bureaucracy, I guess. But no requirements. Legislators argued that this was necessary because if teachers had already completed college, they trust the colleges, we're all good. They also argued that it would increase the diversity of the teacher pool, which is the racism of low expectations, indicating that people of color can't be expected to perform and pass standardized tests. Erica Sanzi, she's a former educator and an advocate for a parents group. She says this is a way for the National Education Association to just expand their powers because they want to increase due-paying members. She said, these are low-rigor tests. We're not talking about the LSAT here. The fact that the failure rate on those tests have been high for so long is a problem. So all those people, think about it, who've been failing out of this tests, now get a free pass. Floodgates are open. Don't have to pass it anymore. Come on, teach some kids. All good. She says this is really an indictment of not only the education system that these aspiring teachers are coming out of, but the colleges of education that give them a degree when they're not qualified. Doesn't matter anymore. They get the degree, they can just go. So what she's saying is people have been getting these degrees and failing the tests. But we're pushing those people through now. New York, California, and Arizona have made similar moves, dropping basic requirements for teachers. I'm not going to explain why this is awful. I'm going to let my hero, economist Thomas Sowell, do that for me. Here's a quote that sums that up beautifully. If you want to see the poor remain poor, generation after generation, just keep the standards low in their school and make excuses for their academic shortcomings and personal misbehavior. But please don't congratulate yourself on compassion. We'll leave it there. I
love it.
Yeah. Let us know what you think.
We need to do that with doctors so we can fill up that doctor shortage we have. Just no more exams. Just we assume you're qualified as a surgeon.
Right. You can play Operation. All good.
You're right. I'm just trying to remove this kidney.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, go get your surgery there. All right, we got more news to get to here on your Monday. It is our first week back from the Christmas break. Good to see all of you guys. Great to see all of you. Let us know where you're joining us from around the world. Coming up, we're going to talk more deeply about Trudeau resigning. David Creighton is going to join us. And then you don't want to miss also Jacob Chansley, which the Liberals labeled as the QAnon shaman. He's going to be joining us to talk about January 6th. Of course, today is 4 years ago when he walked into the Senate peacefully as law enforcement led him into the Senate chambers. He then ended up spending 27 months in federal prison as a result of that. How has his life changed since then? We'll talk to him coming up here. But first, we want to remind you that Redacted is sponsored by Armra. And hey, it's January. Are you focused on optimizing your health? Then maybe you want to look into supplementing your diet with colostrum. And that's what you get with Armra. And in fact, you can receive 15% off your first order if you go to tryarmra.com/redacted. Well, what is it? It's a supplement made of colostrum, which is the first milk that all mammals produce. And in fact, the first nutrition we ever receive in life. If you're a nursing mother, you already know this. Over 5,000 research publications document the health properties of colostrum. It is, when you make it for your baby, it is an antibiotic. It is a vaccine. It is a calming substance. It promotes all human health. And in fact, it's great for gut health. It's great to maximize your microbiome and optimize that. Hair growth, enhance skin radiance. So check it out for yourself. Head on over to tryarmra.com/redacted. Review their menu of products and see if one of them can work for you. If you're thinking, hey, I really want to focus on my health, but man, I'm so tired. I don't feel my health is optimum. Check it out one more time. That's tryarmra, ARMRA.com/redacted. Well, a short time ago, Canadians woke up to yet a second Christmas. within a few weeks. It was a Christmas miracle. Trudeau resigning the prime ministership, but it's a lot more complicated than that. But here was the live moment just a short time ago when Prime Minister Justin Trudeau resigned. Watch.
Over the holidays, I've also had a chance to reflect and have had long talks with my family about our future. Throughout the course of my career, any success I have personally achieved has been because of their support and with their encouragement. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the president of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
It was a remarkable moment, and it comes on a day when President Trump's vote for the presidency in the United States is being certified on Capitol Hill. Coincidence? This is all happening on the same day? I don't know. Is the Trump effect real? There's obviously so much to unpack with this story. It's not as cut and dry as, oh, he's resigning. There's a lot more to this story. David Clayton, independent journalist out of Canada, out of Ottawa, Canada, has been tracking this very closely, writes at the Post Millennial, and has been all over X explaining what is going on about this. David, great to see you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Clayton.
So
nice
there's a lot to this story. Nice to see you. It is an unbelievable new year for Canadians. A lot of my Canadian friends have been texting me throughout the morning like, wow, this is amazing. What a great, great day for Canada. But it's a lot more complicated than that. So can you explain what exactly is going on here?
Yes, it's very complicated. And if you listen to Justin Trudeau's resignation, you have to listen to it maybe 2 or 3 times until you realize he hasn't resigned today. And a lot of people are getting that wrong. He's intending to resign as soon as the Liberal Party selects a new leader, which could be up to 4 months away. And he's going to remain as prime minister, at least as an interim prime minister, until a new leader of the Liberal Party becomes prime minister. But a lot of people are saying Justin Trudeau's gone as of today. Well, he's indicated he intends to go, but you really have to read the fine print in this resignation speech to discover that it's not happening today. And he's certainly given himself some room for maneuverability here. And, you know, Natalie's always joking that I can never say anything good about Justin Trudeau. Well, perhaps I can today. He's certainly giving himself room to move in many directions in the next 4 months. And I don't trust Justin Trudeau to do the right thing. He's very slippery, and this might be just a new incarnation. But the concerning thing here, Clayton, is that in addition to saying he's going to resign, and okay, I'll give him that. Maybe he will resign if the Liberals have a leadership convention and if they select a new leader. But he's prorogued Parliament, and for those who don't know what that means, he suspended Parliament, sent everybody home. Actually, the Governor General of Canada did. The King's representative, excuse me, I'm still thinking of the Elizabethan age. The King's representative, our Governor General, Mary Simon, concurred with Justin Trudeau's request to shut down Parliament. It's called proroguing. And that means we're not going to have people sitting in the House of Commons for another 2.5 months. March 24th is the magic date they come back. So what happens in that time period? Justin Trudeau can virtually do what he wants. He's still prime minister. He can plan for the future. He can plan to be at the G7 conference in June. He wants to be around for as much of this as possible. And it also means what happens when Donald Trump becomes president on January 20th? He has said absolutely nothing about exempting Canada from this 25% tariff that he threatened us with a month ago because of border security concerns. Trudeau came back with a $1.3 billion border security package that's mainly about drones that will be up there to monitor all of the illegals crossing the border. There's no enforcement here. And it's a 6-year plan, much like Justin Trudeau's military spending. It's projected. He will spend these X billions of dollars in 10 years' time when he's no longer prime minister. He will spend money on border security in 4, 5, 6 years' time when he's no longer prime minister. This isn't fooling Donald Trump. That's why he continued to troll Justin Trudeau all through Christmas and New Year's as the governor of the 51st state. He doesn't take Justin Trudeau seriously. He's going to take him less seriously now as a lame duck prime minister who's negotiating for Canada when the House of Commons isn't even sitting. Justin Trudeau has put Canada in an extremely fragile position. We could be looking at a depression, an economic catastrophe in this country because he refuses to look after the country. He's more concerned about his own legacy, about his own survivability, and of course about keeping the Liberal Party intact. Because after all, well, he considers himself the savior of the Liberal Party before he became leader. It was doing rather poorly. It's doing even worse now after 9 or 10 years of Justin Trudeau. But he really does see himself as that party's savior. And we're in a very, very difficult position. Justin Trudeau has put Canada in an even worse position than it was a month ago right now. And I can't emphasize this enough. Proroguing Parliament is a horrendous decision. The Governor General is in the pocket of Justin Trudeau. She should never have concurred with this stupid idea. And she should have said it's not in the national interest. It's only in your interest, Justin Trudeau, and the Liberal Party's interest.
So then Canadians have to deal with Justin Trudeau's policies, with him sort of sidestepping Parliament. And a lot of these similar things are happening right now in the United States. Joe Biden, on his way out of office, pushing a whole bunch of agenda items that will basically hamstring President Trump when he comes into office, stopping drilling in upwards of 650 different locations all up across the east coast of the United States, oil drilling that'll ban that from happening, so Trump won't be able to do that. So sort of putting all of these policies in place that down the line will show up and really affect Canadians many, many years from now. Is that what's happening?
Well, that's precisely what's happening. And we are in a position where we should have had a non-confidence vote on January 26th, 27th, 28th, when the House was supposed to come back after the Christmas recess. Now, that was still too late because Donald Trump becomes president in 2 weeks' time, precisely 2 weeks' time today, January 20th. The House of Commons should have been back prepared for that, to ensure that we had a border security plan that was sufficient to avoid the 25% tariff, which is going to be catastrophic for Canada. But because Trudeau prorogued Parliament, we have no opportunity to have a non-confidence vote against the Trudeau government. We have no opportunity to bring down this government now until March at the very, very earliest. And this is the predicament he's put us in because Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative leader, had a very astute plan worked out to introduce a non-confidence motion today at the committee stage, which could then be transferred to Parliament when it resumes sitting later this month. That's all gone to hell because there will be no Parliament sitting at the end of the month. There will be no opportunity for a non-confidence motion to be voted on. And we're looking now at late March for the earliest possibility of bringing this government down. I would still hope that's an option. Because I want Justin Trudeau to so-called lead his party in the next election so he gets the shellacking he deserves. He wants to leave politics undefeated. If there's any motivation here, if he really intends to resign, it's only because he wants to leave the public stage undefeated. Like he's the guy that brought the Liberal Party back from the abyss, and he retired undefeated. He was never defeated by Pierre Poilievre of the Conservatives. And that's what this is all about. Unfortunately, in the interim, Canada is going to go through horribly cataclysmic times.
I mean, it's basically Canada has no government at the moment. President Trump comes in, puts in place tariffs, border policies that are going to close the United States borders, and then Canada doesn't have anybody there to respond. It's really shocking.
Well, it is because, as I said, Donald Trump does not take Justin Trudeau seriously. He didn't take him seriously when he was still a prime minister who hadn't decided about his future. Now that he says, I'm going to resign, he's a lame duck. He's a Joe Biden of Canada now. And why would Donald Trump take this man seriously? Or any of the non-entities who are lining up to take his place? That's the other piece of the scenario that people aren't considering in to a larger degree. There's nobody out there who really has the gravitas, the stature to somehow become an equal partner with Donald Trump to negotiate. Don't tell me Mark Carney, the former governor of the Bank of England and the Bank of Canada, and who spent the last 4 years as the UN goodwill ambassador for climate change, is going to impress Donald Trump. I'm sorry. He's going to see this guy as another clown in the clown show, another clown in the circus that our parliament has become in Canada. I don't think for a minute this is going to impress Donald Trump. We needed a new election. We needed it soon. And as far as I'm concerned, I think Donald Trump would take Pierre Poilievre seriously because he would win if an election were held today, an overwhelming majority with close to 50% of the vote in a four-party system, which would be phenomenal. So that's what we needed to have happen in order for Canada to survive in any kind of negotiations with Donald Trump's America First USA, which Pierre Poilievre understands. He wants Canada First to meet with US America First as equal partners across the border and saying, how can we resolve our differences to each other's mutual satisfaction? How can Canada improve its border security so it's better for not only the United States, but for Canadians? We were on the verge of achieving that. Justin Trudeau continues to fiddle like Nero.
So I'm just wrestling with what this looks like for Canada over the next 3 months. But before I get there, David, I just have to ask you, we talk, a lot of people saying this is the Trump effect here in Canada, that this is clearly Trump's, I would say the Trump effect in the United States, the populist sort of uprising against these liberal policies. Is that what happened in Canada? Has the Trump effect really brought down Justin Trudeau, or was it his own doing?
Well, probably both, because the momentum for Poilievre preceded the election of Donald Trump. I certainly think the election of Donald Trump accelerated the idea in Canada we could have some kind of political justice again, that we did not have to abide Justin Trudeau for another 4 years or 5 years or whatever, however much time he intends upon staying. So it certainly did make a difference. There is a feeling again that the average voter was empowered. I think that's what that election represented to the Canadians. Those people who participated in the Freedom Convoy, those truckers who said no to Justin Trudeau. I think the election of Donald Trump was an inspiration to people like that who are willing to put their careers on the line to fight for freedom, to fight against political authority, to fight against mandates and the totalitarian edge of this Trudeau government. That was certainly an inspiration, what happened to Donald Trump. And certainly, I think Trump helped push Trudeau out with his completely dismissive attitude, which is what Trudeau deserved. Trudeau thought things were going to be just fine. I can deal with Donald Trump. No, he proved utterly incapable of dealing with Donald Trump. He rushes down to Mar-a-Lago to have a tete-a-tete with the president, to have Thanksgiving dinner with him. And of course, he's back home within 24 hours, and Trump is again putting that information out on social media about him being a governor of the 51st state. So the visit was a completely ineffectual one. And so I think that helped make up Justin Trudeau's mind that his political future as long as Donald Trump was president, was extremely limited. And he really could not speak for the country, with 75% of Canadians saying they want him out. But here's my concern, Clayton. Proroguing Parliament, dismissing the democratic interests of Canadians, quenching the democratic spirit, the way that Trudeau has done by proroguing, suspending Parliament, that's going to create a tremendous backlash in this country from Canadians who say, damn it, we're not going to sit by for 2 or 3 months while these Liberals have their leadership convention and prance around the country with their talking points while the country continues to go to hell in a handbasket. There's going to be massive protest in the streets over this prorogation order. There's going to be massive protest because Justin Trudeau thinks he can do whatever he pleases and it doesn't matter. He's not accountable to the voters. He's not accountable to any sort of democratic rights in this country. And that's the presumption that Trudeau continues to make, and he continued to make it today with his so-called resignation. And that's going to be a very dangerous situation he puts this country in, because the pushback is going to be enormous.
Will those protests work? Is there anything that can happen to stop this? We're having to wait till March?
Barring a revolution? No.
Right.
There's nothing.
Is there any sort
within
of
the legal?
Is there any sort of maneuvering legally that can happen? Can Pierre Poilievre pull anything out of his legislative legal hat that can pull this off?
No, I think he's done. He did that in terms of finding a mechanism to have a non-confidence vote as soon as Parliament was supposed to resume this month. I think that was his best shot. Trudeau's taken that away. And in terms of the legal framework, there's very little that can be done at this point to override a decision made by the Prime Minister and approved by the Governor General. The Governor General might be she's the head of state, despite this being a purely formal position without really having real authority. She does have some degree of authority. The Governor General is the head of state. So to override that would essentially border on treason. It would be to border on a revolution that I don't think any Canadian is looking at right now or seriously considering. My concern, though, is that Trudeau could use this situation, could distort peaceful protest into violent protest, just as he did with the Freedom Convoy, just as he's done to all his political opponents, paint them as racist, as white supremacists, as dangerous political opponents who need to be dealt with the full authority of the state. So we see this happening in the U.S. right now with, again, the Department of Homeland Security coming down heavy on people, the FBI coming down heavy. Trudeau could try the same thing in this country by distorting protests in opposition to him and using it as an excuse to prolong his own power and to perhaps postpone an election for however long. Again, imposing emergency powers, as he did through the Emergencies Act in 2021. Could he do it again? Well, of course he could.
Wow. So maybe it's not the Merry Christmas that we thought. I mean, we've got an admission that he's going to resign. We'll have to hold him to that. That seems like a Merry Christmas present. But there's a lot here, and Canadians are now going to have to suffer through the next 3 months with this lack of Parliament, and as you say, the prancing around of these of the Liberal Party right now, trying to basically have their own convention to find a new leader. Unbelievable. David, thank you for educating all of us on this. I'm sure many Canadians learned a lot about this process as well as did a lot of Americans, and this sort of cross-border international sort of crisis that's unfolding right now in Canada. David, great to see you as always. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Clayton, and Happy New Year again.
Thanks, and Happy New Year to you. Thanks, David. Appreciate it. And some people here in the chat just saying, let's see. Mark Menich says, not resigned yet. This guy is still the prime minister. We're stuck with the process until Parliament gets back. Yeah, So he makes this announcement that we got to deal with this until March. But I like what Lyle Hardy says in our chat. It says, January 25th, election now convoy. So imagine that. Ooh, can you
that's
imagine
an
that?
idea. Okay, we'll follow along if you're going to do that.
An election now convoy instead of a freedom convoy. All the truckers come out and say, we want an election right now. So David's talking about a revolution there. Nothing short, I guess, short of a revolution.
All right.
You know, all right, we'll see. See what they can do.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, you got to wait for this.
All right. Well, we remind you that today is January 6th. That's a day that is forever imprinted in our minds as a day of
lies,
revolution, I suppose.
Right.
Yes. So
deep state cover up, lies,
all of that. And we're going to talk to one of the stars of that story coming up here. I guess we could call him. Yeah, he is a protagonist.
I love some of the memes kind of floating around online. You know, the liberals called him the QAnon shaman, Jacob Chansley, of course, and people posting that today saying, we were just moments away from this guy taking over the American government, right? That was the lie that was told, that this guy was the guy who was going to upend Congress. He was actually led into the Senate chambers peacefully by law enforcement, opened the doors, let him in. And he
by
prayed
what
with
we
them.
now confirm were dozens of FBI informants.
Yes.
Confirmed. We know that now.
So we've learned a lot in the 4 years since, and we're going to speak to Jacob Chansley here in just a moment. But first, we want to tell you about our friends at American Financing, because a lot of us are trying to get our finances in order and start the year off right. There is some great news for homeowners right now. Interest rates have dropped. They're now in the 5s. Now, if you've been buried in high-interest credit card debt, now is the time to break free. American Financing can help you access the cash in your home, pay off your high-interest debt. Last year, their salary-based mortgage consultants helped customers save an average of $800 a month. That's like giving yourself a $10,000 raise. What a way to start the new year. And if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. Call American Financing today. That's 866-890-8434. That's 866-890-8434. Or just visit the website, americanfinancing.net. It's not .com, it's .net/redacted. americanfinancing.net/redacted. And the NMLS 182334, APR for rates in the 5 start around 6.4% for well-qualified borrowers. Call their number right now for details about credit costs and terms. Well, today marks 4 years since the events of January 6, 2021. And the 4 years since, of course, liberals on Capitol Hill and the Mockingbird liberal media have gone to great lengths to paint the people who protested that day as racist, MAGA rednecks who wanted to topple their government. And, well, since then, of course, we've learned a lot about the truth on that day. Thousands of hours of video have emerged, of course. We now have the Inspector General's report that shows the FBI lied to the American people about what happened that day. One man who became the liberal example of that day was Jacob Chansley, who liberals, of course, called the QAnon shaman. The liberal media failed to explain his real story, that he was a U.S. veteran who became convinced that powerful government forces were destroying our democracy. It turns out Jacob was right all along. He perhaps is now more right than ever about what has been happening. And Jacob joins us now on this January 6, 2025. Jacob, great to see you. A lot has changed in the past 4 years since January 6, both in your life and in the nation as a whole. Let me start by asking you this, like looking back now on this, how do you feel about your role in the events of that day? How has your perspective shifted in any way in these 4 years? Are you convinced now that there's no deep state at all? There's no deep state government forces at all?
Well, first of all, let me thank you and say it's an honor to be here. And I've never had such a wonderful introduction, so thank you. And my role on that day is interesting how it has evolved over time, where it started and what it's turned into. It started with the media using my image for their shock and awe campaign and to create the illusion that the violence that took place outside the building also somehow took place inside, even though it didn't, with the exception of, people like Ashley Babbitt dying. There was no real violence inside the building the way that there was outside. And that what happened outside was provoked. I think that Tucker Carlson having the courage to air the footage when he did on live television, knowing his audience, knowing that what it would do, that from what I understand or what I was told, when I was in prison, the January 6th narrative was like unquestionable. It was like concrete solid. You could not, no politician would go anywhere near that topic, right? Because it was like
How do you
political
mean?
suicide. But when he aired that footage, what I mean is that not the narrative itself was actually real. What I mean is that you could not question it in the media without it being political suicide.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Right.
Until Tucker Carlson aired that footage, then it fractured the narrative big time, because the face that they used and that they told everybody was so bad is now walking around with the police. And it's because I volunteered to help. So the actual narrative of that day is totally distorted now based on this evidence right here. And it was like the Achilles heel of the whole thing.
And to be specific, that footage, of course, that Tucker showed shows you being led into the Senate chambers by Capitol Police or uniformed police officers who not only opened the door with you, but then led you in. And then the footage shows you then praying for these police officers.
Yes. After I wrote a note, it's only a matter of time, justice is coming. Little did I know the government was not going to take that one in jest. I was not trying to give a threat or anything, but regardless, I said a prayer. I sang my shamanic song in the upper terrace of the Senate chamber. That's where everybody got the image, the headshot, where it looks like I'm screaming. No, dude, right. I'm singing. I'm singing in that moment, and I'm like climaxing in the song. So there's that. And then I went into the chamber to stop vandalism, violence, and theft. That's what I volunteered to do when I talked to the cops. Said, hey, there's people in the Senate. You want I can help you clear the room, make sure there's no vandalism, violence, and theft. They're like, yeah, come on, let's go. Okay. So I get in there, write the note. It was just something I was like, whatever, But it turns out it was only a matter of time, and justice was coming. I'm all for justice. I would never do anything physically to harm. Like I said, they didn't take that one in jest, but case in point, I said a prayer because I was invoking the name of God in the holy chamber. I was trying to turn the space sacred again, and I think I was successful in many ways.
You've spoken out about being misled. On our show, we talk about conspiracy theories all the time. We say that they're just 6-month spoiler alerts for what's to come. You've talked about being misled at different points, in this 4 years, and you reflect on that. How do you feel like maybe you were misled and what that means to you now?
Well, let's kind of blend that in with your other question about, is the deep state real? And has my opinion changed? Look, if I've learned anything from my time in the legal system and my image being used in the media, it's how distorted the public's perception of reality has actually become, of what's actually going on in government, what's actually going on in the public sphere, and what isn't being talked about, what is being talked about. And it's just reinforced my belief that we need very real reform, but not just political reform. Politics is downstream from culture. We need cultural reform. And when we start talking about things like what Yuri Bezmenov was talking about in the 80s, about demoralization, destabilization, crisis, and normalization, the ideological subversion campaign of the globalist, the communist conspiracy that he talked about, then we really begin to see why it is that things have gotten where we're at now. We cannot understand where we are unless we understand how we got here. You know what I mean? So right. There is a very real deep state, and it's been here for a long time. It's the same deep state that capped Kennedy. And I hope that answers all those questions. Does that? I don't know.
It does. I mean, I know it's such a big question, and I love that you're wearing a triangular UFO shirt, because I think, it's such a massive question from the activists who run our educational system, who it's not just one little piece. It's not just some deep state Nancy Pelosi involvement with the FBI, CIA, whatever. It's much larger than that. And it's been around for decades. It's going to be immensely difficult for an incoming Donald Trump administration to try to unpack all of this. So let's talk about accountability here.
Hold on. If I may, hold on a second. Because accountability and doing something about the problem are one and the same thing. Okay, if you look at what happened on January 6th, you look at the way that the J6 committee lied, the way that it involves Hollywood. If you look at all of this act, like the Ukrainian spy that was there, all of these federal agents, the CIA involvement, the regime change elements, then this has deep state hallmarks all over it. And there's fingers, there's fingerprints all over this thing that actually tie to the much larger problem. Okay. And here's the thing, similar to how the system was created to have checks and balances, right? And those checks and balances have been corrupted to warp the system, right? You can also place pressure, the public that is, in certain areas of the system to cause it to bend back into place. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
right.
You just have to know the areas that you have to go to. It's almost like if you bring a big magnet, you can find 1,000,000 needles in 1,000,000 haystacks, no problem. Okay.
Right.
But if you're trying to sort through it with your fingers, if you don't know what to look for, if you don't know where to go and what to do and how to use your leverage, then yeah, it's going to be hard. But dude, I mean, the Egyptians built the pyramids. You know what I'm saying? So we can do this.
So you think the incoming Trump administration has that giant magnet, has the ability with Akash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard and others who are coming into the intelligence community? They know where the needles are buried in the haystack?
Many of them do, yes. A lot of them don't fully know how many needles are buried there. And that's the beauty of the synergy of all of these people that have been maligned by the system getting together at once, because in many ways they're all experts in their field. And so they can all come together and know where to look and when and who to look at. And that's just the beginning of the pulling of the thread of the sweater. But in many ways, like I said, a lot of them, there's a lot that they don't know each individually, but they have these silos that they're really, really intelligent and like fully informed in. Now, what we need to do is create like a round table horizontal apparatus with these really high level people so that everybody can make informed decisions, because everybody's field of expertise actually affects the other.
Since your release, have you been able to move on? 27 months in federal prison. Have you been able to move on from the events of January 6th? Do you still feel the weight of what happened? I mean, this has to be a pretty heady day for you on this January 6th.
If you hold on to resentment or anger or depression or whatever, regret, then yeah, days like this would be heavy. I don't hold on to any of that stuff. It's not healthy. It's not spiritual. It's not good spiritual hygiene to hold on to that stuff. Okay. So what I've done is I look at it like this. I used the time that I was in prison to become a better man. And I don't know about you, when you go through hard things in life and you come out a better man, you don't really look back on those hardships with disdain, because you're a better man. Right. You know what I'm saying? And you know what? You learn the lesson and now you're stronger for it. I once heard the saying that, nothing is stronger than a repaired broken spirit or something like that, or a healed broken heart or something like that. So was my heart broken by the government's persecution of me and the media's persecution? Absolutely. But what that made me was anti-fragile, as David Goggins likes to say, where right. all that time and pressure turned me into like a super diamond. And now, dude, I'm just going to let my light shine,
Right. We're put here on this earth, right, to experience discomfort, and we only grow through discomfort. Put yourself in difficult situations. So when you look at it now, are you more hopeful? I mean, look back 4 years ago, it was a pretty dark day for the United States of America. What the deep state was doing to us, the federal involvement, the FBI involvement, all of the pieces of this really make us. It almost doesn't sound like a democracy at all. It doesn't sound like the United States of America at all. Are you more hopeful today than you were 4 years ago?
Well, first of all, let's get something straight. Republicans or Democrats in charge over the last several decades, neither one of them have been obedient to the Constitution. Neither one of them are running the government the way the founding fathers would. Let's start there. Am I hopeful? Yes, absolutely. More hopeful now than I ever have been, because since 2008, I have been essentially trying to be working to be a spiritual activist, trying to get people to wake up to certain technologies or certain spiritual truths about our connection to the environment. I'll just give you an example. We're talking about gravitic propulsion engines and stuff, like 0-point energy engines and gravitic propulsion or anti-gravity or inertia propulsion. Like, we're talking about that in the common sphere. I went to AmFest this year, and they were talking, some dude on their stage at AmFest was talking about grounding. Okay.
Right. Can you believe
and the
that?
ionization
which is like taking off your shoes and standing in the grass. It is a renaissance. My wife and I have just been talking about this, how some of the granola stuff that used to be mocked by Republicans about liberals are now, raw milk, right? Local farming, grounding, just like standing in your own backyard in bare feet. Like, these are conservative values at the heart of it, right? And we don't want processed food. We don't want chemicals in our food system. We don't want fluoride, damaging the neurology of our children in our drinking water. Like, these are conservative values. And you're right. I think we are seeing this revolution. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm excited about it.
No. But they're not. This is, I think, part of the issue that people have in this country, in particular Republicans and quote unquote conservatives, or even especially Christians. Okay, is this thing about labeling people. These are not conservative values. These are American, these are human values of, like, we don't want poison in our food. We don't want poison in our water. We don't want poison being sprayed in our air. We don't want the government controlling our weather. We don't want injections that are going to alter our DNA and rewrite our genetic code. We don't want to be locked into our homes. These are reasonable things. And this is why the founding fathers wrote the Declaration, why they all signed the Declaration of Independence that Thomas Jefferson wrote, because look at the list of grievances that Thomas Jefferson gave, and then parallel that with the last 120 or so years. Okay, and then ask yourself, is there anything that seems to parallel here?
No, it's a great point, and I love your point. These aren't conservative values; they are American values at the heart of it. And we've been so pigeonholed by these labels over the past couple hundred years. I mean, going back to before the Civil War. Jacob, any kind of final thoughts today? As you reflect on this January 6th and what you want Americans to know going into this new year?
The future's bright, but it will have its obstacles. And these obstacles are designed to help us grow, not so much obstruct our growth. Okay? As individuals and as a collective, the hurdles are up. Okay? And that's a good thing. The old systems are falling away, that we are entering a new age, a new pattern of human civilization is emerging. Okay. And that's a good thing. That means that we're not going to be dominated by the old ways anymore. But what that also means is that you're going to have to step up. What that also means is you're going to have to expand your consciousness. You're going to have to stretch your imagination to new dimensions. And that is going to require some level of cognitive dissonance at some time. So learn to get comfortable with that. And learn to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because like what you were saying, that's the only way we evolve, okay, is social and environmental pressure. So this is the final point that I want to make, okay, because considering the shirt that I'm wearing, okay, if you look into human history, when we make evolutionary leaps as a species, a lot of the time it's actually because of either a self-selected individual or group of individuals that get together in the presence of tremendous social or environmental pressure. And these individuals or individual create a new tool, a new mental model, or a new form of behavior that allows them to circumvent the social and environmental pressure and not just survive, but thrive. Then in the presence of this social and environmental pressure and this person or this group is thriving, the tribe, right? And they go, hey, what are you doing, man? How are you doing that, right? And they tell them, they communicate, right? And they change the dialogue in the tribe. They give them the new mental model. The new mental model is assimilated, or they show them the new tool or how to make it that's assimilated, or the new form of behavior is assimilated. Right? And then the whole tribe gets to circumvent the social and environmental pressure. And then it's no longer a big deal, right? Now, what we are going through right now is a very similar evolutionary change, all right? And we have literally millions of, if not billions, considering the origins of the universe. We have billions of years of evolution that this process is unfolding, like all that momentum. Nothing can stop what's coming. The question is, what shape or form does that evolutionary process take, and how long does it take? So the new tools are the zero-point energy engines that, what's his name, Salvador Payas, the Payas patents, the 3 patents, the zero-point energy engine, the room temperature superconductor, and the gravitational wave generator, or the anti-gravity inertial propulsion craft, okay? Those 3, along with the Tesla towers, that Tesla coils, from over 100 years ago, infinite free clean wireless electricity, okay? And then things like medical cures, Dr. Reif's machine, the understanding of these technologies and how they work. In order to understand how they work, you need to understand energy, frequency, and vibration. Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, right? So what that means is that as we start to allow this technology to come to the market, we begin to understand the secrets of the universe. The spiritual evolution of humanity is then paralleled by the technological evolution. And that's the only way that we can do this and work with these amounts of energy without destroying ourselves. So we have to spiritually evolve and technologically evolve, and that will end up having an impact on our political, our economic, and our social systems. And we also have to incorporate other cultural elements to the formation of our culture around this technology. Otherwise, it's going to warp the minds of future generations, similar to the way that unfettered access to modern technology has warped the minds of modern generations now, right? So we have to take that into our cultural model as we move forward with these technologies. So this is the new mental model, right? Is the energy, frequency, and vibration, and understanding. The new technologies are the things that I've listed: TR3B, zero-point energy, room temperature superconductor, Tesla towers, Dr. Reif's machine. And then lastly, the new form of behavior is nonviolence, nonviolent non-cooperation with tyranny. No need for war, just total non-compliance. You vote with your money, you vote with your time, you vote with your attention. And that is the awakening of the individual and the masses to who is really in power. Because it puts it literally right back in our hands. Literally, it puts the power, literal power, right back in our hands, both spiritually, technologically, politically, socially, etc.
Wow. I think it's a brave new world. Hopefully we can wrap our brains around what's coming, because I agree with you on many of these points, Jacob. Great to see you, my friend. Thank you for being here on this January 6th. It's been a crazy couple of years for you, but I'm happy to hear that you're doing well, and things are moving in the right direction in this country, I hope. Jacob, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Man, thank you, Jacob. Appreciate it. I mean, so many people in the chat. I love what One Man Band in our YouTube chat says. This guy's making a lot of sense. I know. If you just slow it down and rewind and go back and listen to some key points of what Jacob just said, I think, when he talks about, first of all, we talk about raw milk or things like that. Those aren't conservative values. They're really human values.
Contactless energy with Nikola Tesla, like he actually has done his study of all of these things. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, they're human. Mm-hmm. They're human. They're human. Human elements, and
shared values.
Shared values, right.
Yes, they should be. You would think, but all of a sudden it's political.
And David was just texting me saying, "Did you notice he had a redacted mug?" I didn't notice that.
I didn't see that.
At least it looked like one. I don't think I'm always.
I'll look for it at the end when I go through it all.
I didn't have to message him later, but. Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting takeaways there. I think what he says too, what he just said there at the end. It might be hard for us to maybe wrap our heads around, but I think what he's saying is true, especially when it comes to voting with your dollars.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly right.
Bud Light, you want to stand up, you want to promote DEI agendas or transgender ideology with children and all of this stuff, Dylan Mulvaney and Bud Light and all of this stuff. You know what? Right. We're going to vote with our dollars. We're just not going to put our money there anymore. And you're going to see this cultural shift. And I think you're already seeing that with a lot of Hollywood having this awareness and awakening thanks to this sort of collective right now. I don't know.
I mean, that's something I've been thinking about a lot is disrupting the insurance industry, because people are complaining in the wake wake of the United Health CEO's death, like, well, this needs to be disrupted. Well, then do it. Join something like Crowd Health. You don't need to shoot people. Just disrupt the industry. We have the power to do that. So, yeah, I appreciated that take very much.
Yeah, quite a difference than what the media had portrayed Jacob as over the years, right? Anyway, it's interesting on this January 6th, so we're thrilled that he could join us here today. So thank you for that. Yeah. All right, hey, we have a daily newsletter. It's the best free newsletter on the planet. It's totally free. It's delivered to your inbox every day, depending on your time zone. All you need to do is just go to our website, redacted.inc, and you just click on Join the Newsletter. And then you'll receive a welcome email from me. This is from Clayton at redacted.inc. It might go to your spam folder or your promotions folder. Gmail labels us as dangerous, labels our newsletter as dangerous. So just dig for it. And then you just need to confirm it that you want to receive the newsletter, and then drag it over to your inbox so that tomorrow morning you'll receive the newsletter first thing in the morning. You can read it in about 5 or 10 minutes over your cup of coffee. We cover like 5 or 6 of the big stories of the day that we think have been redacted by the mainstream media, and as well as some little nuggets in there. We talk about gold prices, what's going on with Bitcoin prices, and other things like that. But all of it's available for you for free. Just go to redacted.inc and sign up for our daily newsletter. Natali writes it. She works very hard on it throughout the day and through the evening and first thing in the morning. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us. Our first show back on this New Year's.
That's right. Well, we'll see you here tomorrow. We will be here. The newsletter will be in your inbox. Thanks for coming back, you guys. Happy New Year.